All right, boys, 1:30 in the morning, and I want salmon, so I'm gonna make some fucking salmon. So this seems like a good fillet for right now. It's a pretty big, decent fillet. So I filled this cooking bowl with water, and then I'm just gonna put my salmon fillet in there while still in the package. Probably gonna need more water for that. And then usually I'll just put like a glass of water on top for weight so it actually stays down there. All right, so I'll see you guys when that's thawed out, and then we'll get to cooking. All right, so it's been about an hour, so it should be pretty thawed out. Let's take a look. Yeah, perfectly thawed out, perfectly soft. Let's get to cooking. All right, look at this beautiful fillet we have here. Now, I actually eat a lot of salmon because I think it's really good. It's pretty healthy. There's a lot of different ways you can prepare it, but I'm gonna show you the way I usually prepare it. And yeah, you can follow this recipe along if you want to, but let's just get straight into the midnight cooking. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by removing the skin and the scales and all that. So that's a decent-ish skinning. Decent amount of meat still left on these parts right here, but it doesn't take away from the overall fillet because it's a very large fillet. Now what I'm gonna do, throw these little pieces over to the side for now, and I'm gonna flip it over on this side. I'm gonna take my knife, and I'm just gonna cut it diagonally in little slits, like so. Making sure not to go through the fillet itself and cut it up. Then I'm gonna do the same thing, but going the other way. And that should get the flavor soaked into most of the fish. So I like to use a few different things to season my fillet, starting with some lemon juice. So I'm just gonna put a liberal amount of lemon juice on both sides, and I'm gonna rub it into the meat and also make sure it gets in these slits that I cut. Next, I'm gonna use some garlic powder, and we're gonna sprinkle that all over. Next is some salt. And then, of course, pepper. And I'm going to use a good amount of pepper, but not the same amount as the garlic powder. Just a nice, even coating over all of it. So that's the main piece seasoned, and I think for these smaller pieces I have here, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I want to try to add some, basically, Old Bay, and see how that turns out, because this is what I season my crawfish with, and usually turns out really good. So we're going to do that with this. Now I'm going to start with the lemon juice again, but this time, because it's such a small piece, I'm just going to put the lemon juice in my hand, and then I'm just going to slide that around in my hand, flip it over, get that other side done, just like that, and then add our fish seasoning, and there's that smaller piece perfectly seasoned. So now I'm going to take a stick of butter, and I've cleaned off the knife that I used to cut the fish, and we're just going to look for the measurements on this side, and I'm going to just go ahead and cut that in half, just like this. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it into sections like so, so it disperses better throughout the pan. So basically what I'm doing is I'm cooking this in a base of butter, and I'm going to add some garlic cloves. Garlic, that is a lot of garlic right there. Now it often gets stuck right there, so what you can do is just cut it off with your knife. I'm going to throw a whole lot of cilantro in there, and I'm actually going to rip it up just to express the flavors a bit. Now I'm going to drop my main fillet right there, and then my small fillet right there. And then my last step is to take this big onion core right here and just break it apart and drop it in the butter as well. Add some oniony flavor to that garlic, cilantro, and other ingredients. I'm gonna grab a fork and take a little piece of this extremely small part of that small piece. I'm gonna give this small piece that we season with Old Bay a little bit of a taste test. Now, this isn't the fully cooked one, and then we have the most undercooked one right there. So I'm gonna try every type of cook, but I really wanna try the Old Bay seasoning. So, it's good. It has a more sea-like taste to it, which I know that sounds stupid, but since it's a fish seasoning, I'm guessing that's made it more fishy. Now, this is the least cooked part of the fish, also seasoned with the Old Bay, so. I don't know why, but that piece is better than the slightly more cooked piece. I don't know if that's just because there was more seasoning on it or what, but that one was better. I gotta show you this because this is basically a perfect sear. This looks incredible as it is, so I can't wait to try this because this is one of the best cooks I've done on salmon. But in the meantime, while the other side is cooking, I'm going to try this fully cooked Old Bay seasoned small piece right here and see how that turned out. It's very good. I don't know how I feel about seasoning salmon with the Old Bay. It's good, it's edible, but there are definitely better ways to do it, like what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna compare what I've tasted just now to what I'm gonna have with this and just see which one I like better, but I'm guessing I like that one more because I've done that before, and from what I remember, I do like that better. All right, boys, so the salmon is done. I also cooked this piece, which is that piece that I cut off, one of those small pieces I cut off. I decided to just throw this in the pan with no seasoning or anything, just throw it in with the butter and all the juices that have escaped from those vegetables and whatnot. So I'm gonna see how this tastes. Because it's so small, it formed a really good crust, and it has a lot of that salmony flavor because it's not covered with, you know, a bunch of seasonings and whatnot. But I can get hints of, you know, garlic and stuff like that from the butter. But that's very good. All right, now let's try the main dish. Now, I actually haven't looked on the other side of this, but ooh, that's a great char. I like a good amount of, I'll show you guys. I like a good amount of blackened crust on there, and this turned out basically perfectly. So let's give it a taste. I'm just gonna cut off this corner piece right here. It has a good amount of char on it. Now, the inside looks very good. It's white, some hints of orange still, but that outside char is really what I was looking for, and I think I pulled it off really well with this piece. It's really good. The thing I really like about the way I prepare this is that it adds a lot of that citrusy flavor from the lemon juice while also not covering up the taste of the fish itself. And then that garlic powder adds some hints of garlic, and then you got your salt and pepper for your, you know, notes of sodium. I don't really know how to describe that, but like, you know, saltiness and a bit of pepper. Let's try another piece. This piece is slightly less charred, so that's also incredibly good. I'm really happy with the way this turned out, and I'm really happy with the way it cooked through. You know, that white meat that you're looking for while still having the hints of orange. Very good. You got that lemon flavor from the lemon juice. You got the garlic and the onion and a little bit of hints of cilantro in there. from the butter and all the things we added to it. All right, boys. Well, if you enjoyed this episode of Midnight Cooking, make sure to leave a like, subscribe. Fuck y'all, and I'll see you in the next one.